Hey, folks, welcome back to another episode of Artist Stories of Middle Georgia. I'm your host, Victor Rigole, back in the studio today, and I've got a wonderful guest for you today. None other than my brother from the same mother, my brother Neil Rigole, aka Nicky2Shoes, is in the house. Welcome. Thank you,
Good
Neil.
morning. Hey, bro. How you
How's
doing?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great.
Thanks for
Appreciate you
having
taking some time out of your busy schedule. I want folks to know a little bit more about you. And I was talking about you yesterday to Jennifer Long. I saw her at her home yesterday. She had me come up and help her with something, and we mentioned you. I saw the piano that you played that was a little bit out of tune, but she told me about that story, which is kind of neat. And I told her I was
Great
going to
people.
have you on the podcast, so she was excited about that as well. But where does Nicky2Shoes story begin? I think I know about where it begins, but I want you to tell folks where it begins, and then we'll talk a little bit about your career. So
All right. Well, I guess you're talking about musical journey, in per se, and in terms of the
yeah,
artist.
your musical journey. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
music,
How did
musical.
how did you had yeah
I had, mom had a piano, and
yeah
they let me take piano lessons early on. So I did have some start with learning correctly, but before that, I was beating on the piano with drumsticks. That they try
oh yeah
one of the things, uh, but still had a fascination with music early on. And I've always been drawn to music, and was able to take piano lessons, and I sang at church and sang in the school choir. And back in the day, we had these things called recorders, and everybody had a recorder, and we learned to read music back in elementary school, which you don't get these days.
yeah. They don't
That's
do that anymore, do they?
taken out of the
Yeah.
the curriculum a lot, except in certain places. But so I was able to get a little bit of a foundation. I was able to take some piano lessons. Did that for a few years. Started playing, kind of in middle school and junior high. We called it junior high. I wanted to play a wind instrument. I was playing the trumpet and ended up on the French horn. Did that for several years in junior high and high school, and played in the marching band. And but I was also playing jazz. I learned that I had a proclivity to be able to improvise, and improvisation is a jazz aspect. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not as you can improvise in classical music, but it really is more lean towards jazz and blues and all that. But I learned how to improvise in high school, and I learned some tricks there, and played in jazz bands and in high school, and started. That was when I first played in a kind of a rock band, pop band, playing cover songs back in high school, and then went off to college, played in the Redcoat Band for a year, and that was a short-lived time because I had a great time at UGA. Had such a good time.
Yeah.
I had to come home, and I came home, and I went to school here. When I say here, I'm in an office at Middle Georgia State University right now, and this used to be called Macon Junior College back in the day. And so when I flunked out of UGA because I never went to class, I ended up at Macon Junior College, and I'm still
Yeah.
here. I'm now a professor here, but my music role. This is not. I'm not a music professor at all, but I went into a different route. But I long journey, but in that as well. But I was still playing music when I came home. We played in a band that I was talking to you about earlier. We eventually called ourselves. We were called Fresh Figs at one time. We
Oh
ended up
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Loose Change,
Loose
and
change.
yeah, our we that was our claim to fame. We had a one
Rehearsed
song that
down
was in a
in
movie.
the
We had a song
CB
in a movie.
Rigole's basement there back
Yeah,
in the
we would
day.
play.
Yeah.
We would play, and my nickname became CV in that band because we
Yeah.
would practice at Dad's house, and on the mailbox it said CV Rigole. And whenever people would say where we're going to practice, and they would say CD's house,
Yeah.
and so I became. And still, whenever we play, they call me CV with that
How
band.
about that?
We
Good
were,
stuff.
that was mid
Living the
80s.
dream back then.
Yeah, living the
Yeah.
dream, man. And I was young guy, but
Yeah.
mid 80s, late 80s, or about 1990, the band we broke up and went separate ways. One of the guitarists, he's now playing with Marshall Tucker Band, and
Right.
I went back to college. I kind of quit college for a little while. I actually had gotten a job at a factory in Macon called Brown and Williamson, and it was paying such good money at the time. I didn't think I needed college, but then I thought, I wanted to try it out on the road. I quit it to try to live life on the road as a musician, and that was
Right, right.
that was fun. But
That
then I
was
got married.
interesting.
I
Yeah,
got married and
yeah,
then started having kids, and I went back to college. And so here
yeah.
I am. And I decided, though, at the time, I didn't know what to do. Was learning. I went into education, but this is 90 and the web was just coming out. And
Right,
I found out
right.
I had a ability that I could do. I was doing desktop publishing more stuff for the math. Or I mean, it was an undergraduate with uh, my bachelor's program, but I was doing a lot of desktop stuff. And a lot of that transferred over to be able to do a little bit of web programming. I learned HTML and then started learning other languages. And then I started teaching teachers. I was a teacher. I became a teacher. That's really what happened. I was an elementary school teacher, and then started using the technology with the kids and started having teachers use technology. And I became a trainer and became a web designer for Bibb County back in the mid 90s. Was the first person I had to kind of create that job.
Right, right.
And then, but I ended up kept going to school, and I got a
Yeah,
master's and ended up getting a doctorate in instructional technology. And so I'm I'm an IT professor. That's information technology, but I still do a lot on the instructional side. We now have actual our own doctoral programs here. So we have a master's program. I teach a lot with our master's students, our doctoral students, and in undergraduate programs too. But I still play music here at the college though too. So they're really nice about allowing me to use some of the skills and talents that I have to help. We just played and one of the bands I play with now is called the Grapevine Band. And we played the gala here at the university a couple of weeks ago. Our president, Dr. Christopher Blake, he's a bass player.
Oh,
And
wow.
we actually had a band. It was Dr. Blake and some of the other admins. We were called the Muddlers here on campus for a while.
That's
Kind of
interesting
like
name.
middle but
Yeah,
muddle.
yeah.
But that's in a nutshell where I got. That's probably more than you want to know, Victor.
Oh,
So
no, no, no. It's quite interesting, because being my brother and everything, remember back when I do remember you uh, learning music with the recorder. I remember that now because you had said something about it. And I think there was one time I picked you up a few times from piano lessons over there off of what used to be Columbus Road or Thomaston Road or something, and that lady. Do you remember who that lady was that taught you the lessons? Do you remember her?
Bonnie Ezel was her name, and I will say this. Okay, so this is 1973, maybe when I
Ish.
started taking.
Yeah.
She was
Yeah.
she was way ahead of the curve. She had a lab set up in her basement of 5 Wurlitzer keyboards, and these were
Wow.
and these classics. I wish I had one. And she had headphones, so she could listen to every one of her students. It's way ahead of the game, 1975,
Wow.
maybe. Yeah,
How about
listening to
that?
headphones, she would hear us, the individual students. She could talk to us through a microphone, and she would kind of patch in with kind of like the old school operators, like Mom was. You had to
Yeah.
put in
Yeah.
a cord in to be able to hear. But she could talk to us, and I could hear her as the instructor. But we would graduate from her lab in the basement to a grand piano she had upstairs, and that's
I
where,
did not know that. How
yeah,
about
she.
that? That is
And I'm
awesome.
not sure
Yeah.
where Miss Bonnie, how she ended up.
Yeah. What
Her
happened to
husband
her?
ended up owning a nightclub that not the Grapevine, but Loose Change we used to play in a good bit.
Oh,
It's
really?
called Persnicketies, yeah,
Oh,
over on
I
Main Highway.
remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And there was that connection there. So
Yeah. And Oscar Jackson had a big influence on you too in
he
high
was a
school because
band director,
he was a
in high
jazz
school,
band, wasn't he?
jazz
Yeah.
band director. Yeah, he was a big influence. He taught us all, a good bit about uh, the commitment that it takes and
Right.
the seriousness that of being a musician, and then well, also that it does require time and effort and
Effort,
and
sacrifice. Yeah.
sacrifice, and
Yeah.
he did instill that in us, that
Yeah.
you have to practice. And I mean, he was also our marching band person, so we got a lot when we were
Right.
doing marching band. Southwest High School was not your typical, like when I went off to UGA, you march with all your feet down like this, right? You're going across.
Right.
But in Southwest, we kicked those legs up really high.
Oh
He
yeah.
came with that
Oh yeah.
old school style.
Oh yeah.
Uh, kind of like HBCUs march like that. And that was
Yeah.
we worked out. And so we
Oh
had
yeah.
kind of like a coach. He was kind of like a coach, but, a lot of that work ethic was instilled.
Right.
Not only him, but also William Hunter was another band director that
Oh
I had.
yeah.
All of
Yeah.
most of the music teachers I've had over the years have really instilled that work ethic, right? Like,
Right.
you got to practice and you got to
Yeah.
take it serious. I mean, it's fun. It really is
Oh
fun to
yeah.
play.
Oh yeah. Great
But
rewards,
there's a
from the
lot of
hard work and everything. And it's similar to art because there's a lot you got to practice, you got certain techniques, and you got to practice that, hone that skill. There's great reward, but there's a lot of sacrifice too, and it's that process that you go through, because, as you get better, there's certain sacrifices, work ethic, all that kind of stuff. If you expect to get better, at your craft. And I've seen that in you over the years, not to get emotional, but your growth as an individual, as a person, but also as a musician, because there's so many times since I've been doing this and getting into the art and everything, I've come in contact with so many people that know you through music. Okay. And I do know people that used to work with me that, hey, I had your brother for so-and-so class, I said, okay, so, but yeah, it's amazing though. But, they always have just wonderful things to say about you, and you're just so talented, and you have such an ear for music. And, you've played with a lot of interesting people over the years. You really have. I mean, you know some great people. I mean, Chuck Lavelle is one of those people that and probably have played a little bit with, and hung
what?
out down there at the Capricorn recording studio. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Chuck's
so
a hero of mine, but one of the others that I've really gotten to know over the years, he owns a studio, not Capricorn, but he was a Capricorn engineer, but he was the original keyboardist before Greg Allman was playing organ. A fella he's in Macon, he came from Alabama, just like Chuck did, but Paul Hornsby, who's a
Paul
local.
Hornsby, yeah,
Paul was
yeah,
the original keyboardist for the Hourglass. So before they were the Allman Brothers, they were the Hourglass, and they were also the Allman Joyce. And that was
right.
Paul playing. And so Paul's a good friend, and I got to do a session
How
with him a
about
couple of
that?
weeks ago. Love him. But yeah, Chuck is definitely a hero. Another big hero and big influence. Chuck had a band called Sea Level,
Sea Level.
and
Mm-hmm.
Chuck had a keyboardist in that band named Randall Bramlett. And I'm just a huge Randall Bramlett
Well,
fan.
we have ties. We have ties to him
That's
in the
right.
way,
Your wife.
because my mother-in-law went to high school with him down in Jessup, Wayne County. I mean, it's just,
He's so great.
it's like,
And
wow.
I'm still learning from those fellas. Music, like art, is a journey, Victor. I know
Oh,
you
it
know that.
is.
It's
Yeah.
never, you're never there. And if one thing that disturbs me about some musicians that I know, they think, well, they've reached their pinnacle of the craft.
Right.
I've
Right.
gotten so good, I don't need to do anything else. But you're
Yeah.
never. It's always,
Right.
it's like practicing anything. Practicing
Right.
medicine it's a practice, right?
It's a practice.
You're
Yeah.
never complete.
You never master it.
Never.
You never master it. And I've shared this with some of the other artists on my podcast. There's something I learned a long time ago. Somebody, can't even remember who, shared it with me. Is you have to be what's called green and growing, because it's like the fruit, it's on the vine, it's green, it's growing and all that. But once you pick that, you think, oh, it's ripe, it's reached its peak. What happens? It starts to rot, So you
Right.
have to be green and growing,
I like
always
that.
learning, always growing, to get better and everything. And you're
Yep.
right. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm filling out this little survey that somebody has sent me, about, how did I get started and what I do and that kind of thing. And it's like, I'm in my 60s, and anybody can learn to paint. Even somebody in their 60s, that used to years ago,
Right.
Do some art and everything, and it just kind of lay dormant for a while. But it's that process and practice and everything to get better, and always just trying to be better. And I see that in you too, because you play with Dr. Clark and do a little jazz thing. Y'all just did something a couple of weeks ago there in Macon, an annual event. They shut down the streets there, which is just awesome, and had this great, little arts and crafts and jazz and thing going on. So,
Well, yeah. And that is something where we value not only the music, but so years ago, when we started this, I say we, so you mentioned Dr. Clark, that's Edward Clark, who's definitely a good friend. And he and I are kind of of the same age. He's a year behind me. He went to Central High School,
Oh,
but
okay.
he also went off to UGA. He didn't play in the Redcoat band, but he ended up going to medical school, and he's a pediatrician. But he kind of got the group of the Jazz Association kind of reformed and revitalized a little over 20 years ago. And we've been doing this festival in Macon called the Jazz and Arts on Riverdale. And so it was called just Jazz on Riverdale, but then we decided to include artists every year. So we do have the ability. So we feature artists every year. We have posters that individuals and other merch that the featured artist is on every year. But we also have vendors and artists that come out and are able to promote their wares at the
Right.
festival. But yeah,
Right.
we close off the street. It's a big block party. 23 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about that?
And I'm currently the president of the Jazz Association, which is something that, because we're kind of a family kind of, we're a community
Right.
organization. We all take turns at these kind of roles.
Right.
So
Right.
I'll roll off of that soon.
Yeah.
But we try to the big thing that we do is we have a jazz education program. We go out to schools. So that event supports that. So we're able to get musicians, and so we need to pay for their gas money to get out to the schools, right? And so we go into mainly Bibb County public schools, but we've also gone into Houston and Monroe and some private schools in town. I think we're headed back to Stratford this year, but we do a jazz education program where we talk about the roots of jazz. Jazz is America's only contribution to the arts, really. I mean, it's America's true art form. And so we talk about its history. It's not it's between Europeans and slavery and all of that, it all comes together. And it's something good came out of a lot of bad stuff. Sometimes.
That's right. That's
so,
right.
The music is a great thing, and we get the kids excited about music, and we expose them to the different varieties. Jazz is an umbrella term. There's so many different styles of jazz. We expose them to a few of those, talk about the history, but we also provide, and what that festival does is we have 3 scholarships that we provide every year annually to students who are in need of instruments, or they're in need of private lessons or tuition. We help fund tuition for college. It's a great organization. Thank you for mentioning that. So we do it every year. We'll be doing it again next year. So
glad you could, I brought that up, and you could put a big plug in for that, because I mean, I think that's awesome, because there's, with budgets and things like that, I mean, there's just so much that's being cut out of schools and things like that. And it always sends, oh, we'll just cut the arts. We'll keep the sports program, but we'll cut the arts, and so you don't have, where people can learn to be artists or painters or musicians and things like that. And so really trying to promote that and keep that alive in the school system is awesome, because people can go into careers as an artist or a musician. You can make a living doing it. So, so you don't have to go out and get that real job and just do it as a hobby, kind of thing. You could do that. But then again, it is hard work. And it goes back to what we said earlier about the commitment, the sacrifice, the work ethic. And that's true with anything, just like in your career today. I mean, just like, I had a career in IT, you still had to have that, and that's something that I think is missing a little bit. And I know that you and your group will help promote that, is that strong work ethic. You have to take that initiative and have to work hard and have to sacrifice to make something of yourself and to develop that skill or that talent or that ability. So, yeah.
Well, it's so true, especially one of the things we have to instill in the students in the IT field is that, and IT again is like an umbrella term, right? So many areas of IT that people can It could be programming, it could be they're running cable somewhere. Who knows?
Yeah.
But you're always learning. IT's constantly changing. It's not the same as it was 10 years ago. The technology is totally different. So you're constantly.
It changes every 18 months or so, if not faster. You
got to re-up. You got to always be learning, right? And some people, that's not. They would rather teach Latin. And Latin's not really going to change much, and so that's okay. But don't go into a field where it's going to be constant, where you're going to have to keep your skill set, up to date. Because I mean, we don't do COBOL, and
exactly.
Some of these they die out, right?
Yeah. And you probably have seen some of the what I'll call more modern languages kind of die out and phase out too over time. So, but as with technology and things changing as fast as it does, you have to keep up. and it's a challenge to keep up. And I can imagine it's a challenge for colleges and universities and professors to say, okay, we got to stay ahead a little bit so we can teach that, so we've got to be learning it just as, it's changing so that we can provide that to students so they can be successful out in the IT world. So yeah, that's a challenge. So, that's some of the things that I'm glad you brought that up, because I always try to ask, my people, my guest is, what do you find the most challenging? And you've kind of shared some of that. IT is just constantly changing. But what do you find maybe so challenging? And do you find certain things challenging in the music side?
Yeah, well, music, well, is IT on the music side too. So you got AI as an impact right now in the music field, right? So
All
everybody,
right.
I've been playing
Yeah,
around
in the
with
art
that.
world
So,
too. Yeah. Yeah. So
uh,
true.
well, you've got AI generated content, and people are
Yeah.
using AI to create music, and so keeping up with that and keeping up with the technology is also. But music is, if you just talk about it as a performer, maintaining, you have to, otherwise it's muscle and memory, because very, especially piano is very muscle,
Right.
and also voice is very,
Right.
it's physical. Some of this is very physical,
Yes.
not the technology aspect, so it does require like exercise, and the same
Right.
with your voice, like anything,
Right.
and maintaining and staying in shape and trying to, you know, stay healthy, and
Right.
that's a issue about, playing and I used to not sing as much, and now that I sing, it's very important that don't get a cold. Don't, there
Stay
goes the
healthy.
gig. You
That's
can't
right.
sing.
Hey,
All of
sorry.
that's just over. I can't.
Yeah.
I
We'll
could
just
play through
we'll
if I
just do
had.
instrumentals tonight,
I
guys.
know
No
if I had
vocals.
pneumonia, I could
Yeah.
still play the piano. But if I'm
Yeah.
not going to be
Yeah.
singing if I have pneumonia.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
have to be aware of that these days more. But
Yeah.
yeah, just trying to stay, continual. I mean, stay practicing, and with music, to be listening to, I listen to all kind of genres of music. I try to listen to young artists. I'm really big into finding new artists to listen to. Some people get stuck in trying to just listen to who they went to high school and listened to, and
Right.
that was
Right.
what, that's all they, their 20s, and I understand that, and that's nostalgia, and people do, it's always,
Right.
those were the greatest bands, but there are some great young
Yeah.
musicians
There's some
constantly
there's some
coming out,
great
and
great yeah, there
and,
are.
and to
Yeah.
stay involved with, and to keep listening and growing, because they're learning from the old artists as well, but they're teaching us things as old dogs. We can learn new tricks from some of these young artists that are out there, some great, pop and rock and jazz, I mean, in all
Right.
genres, of
Right.
new
Right.
uh, artists. And that's one way to stay current, and
Right.
stay listening and playing. So
Well, I want you to talk a little bit about something that you've been doing here for a little while. I don't know how many years or, how long it's been going on, but, as I introduced you, your name is Neil Rigole, but you also go by the sidekick, alter ego, whatever other name as Nicky2Shoes. And
Nicky2Shoes.
you have a presence out on social media, from anywhere from YouTube to Instagram to TikTok to whatever, of content that you create where you're in your home studio playing the keyboard, piano, whatever, and you're recording things, but you're also doing a bunch of duets with other artists that are out there, which is awesome. Just notice where you're doing some things that you put out, and it may be associated a little bit with what you're teaching. I'm not sure, of you walking down the street to the Chicago song, 25.
Yeah, that's some new stuff
That
that I'm
that
going.
yeah, that's it. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, okay. Well,
And
it really,
how
so
did you get into doing that? What motivated
pandemic,
you to
the
you think?
pandemic changed everything, right?
Uh-huh.
COVID, and when we were shut down and we stopped playing, and back when we shut down too, I say, I mentioned I play in the Grapevine Band, and that band's been
Right.
going for a long time, but we lost one of our key players back during COVID. He died
Right.
from COVID
Larry.
before the vaccines.
Yeah.
Larry Lee, my big
Right.
brother, our bass player, and that his death impacted me.
Oh
He
yeah.
was kind of the one who
Yeah.
gave me the nickname Nicky2Shoes. My
Oh.
name Nick came from because our lead singer Donnie couldn't remember my name when I first got in the band, and he would say on keyboard just Nick, and so I was Nick. And then I would always we were playing a game. late at night driving back home from gigs, and it's 2 or 3 in the morning. You try to keep each other entertained. We were playing some game about what our mafia names would be, right? So
yeah.
Paulie the Tuna, Sammy Two Face. I don't know, but anyway, mine became Nicky2Shoes. That's my mafia. My mafioso.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay. Now we know.
So
Yeah.
so we all had a little mafia name. So but when
that's
I got
good.
so COVID happened and everybody was out on TikTok, and I was like, what is this? And it was the kids, everybody,
Right.
these kids are just on TikTok all day long. So I said, I'm gonna get on TikTok. I'm see what's up. Well, one of the things is I wasn't doing a lot with social media other than I posted every now and then. But when Larry was doing the Grapevine social media, and he would post on occasion, but when he passed, that kind of fell to me. Not only I had to start singing more because he was a singer in the band, I took over some of his songs, but I also took over the social media aspect of the band. And I was like, what are these reels people are doing? I kept hearing about these reels. These were these short, and these were that filmed not landscape, but and there's a difference. Like TikTok is in portrait mode, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to know so I could promote the band for Grapevine. So I started looking into TikTok and some of the templates that they had, and I learned. I thought, well, I could make some reels for the Grapevine. Then I started thinking about, what it would mean to be a content creator. If I was going to do this, because I started reading about, and this was towards the end of the pandemic. And I was getting back to work, and I was teaching, and I teach social media stuff, about what it really means. If you're going to be a content creator, you really need to you need to post content, right? You don't need to just do it every other week.
Right. You got to be consistent with it,
You really need to post every day, a couple times. This is TikTok, especially.
Right.
2 or 3 times a day. All right. So where am I going to get this content from, right? If I'm going to be. So a lot of people dance, and they do lip syncing and stuff. But also I realized that I could play the piano or I could do something. So that kind of grew from that. So I filmed me just singing a song, and then I started doing other songs. And so I was able to use, that aspect of the social media to try one is songs that my bands will never play, right? So I get to sing songs from artists of various genres. I mean, I've sung in Portuguese, and I have, like you said, I've duetted. We call it duet. So this is what really sold me on TikTok was the ability to, you do the cross screen like me and you, right?
Now
you can't do it live because of the latency, but we are able to. I can record, and somebody can record along with me. So I've recorded with some cool people. Cheryl Crow, she was putting some stuff out for us to be able to play around with, and but some other artists, but just friends of TikTok. We had this kind of a community called kind of the cover song community of TikTok, and we would sing each other, and we would sing along with each other. People all over the world, over in Europe and South America and Africa, everywhere. So that's been, I thought, was everybody was, really talking how terrible TikTok was, and about the youth of, we're going down this terrible path. I know now it's all about AI and everything.
Oh yeah.
But think back a couple of years ago. I mean, Congress was meeting over TikTok.
We're going to get rid of TikTok.
Wanted to get rid of it. I mean,
it's owned by China.
And it was about China, but it's I thought it was a great app in terms of technology to be able to, especially to do the duets. So I was able to play with some great musicians, and we've created some really cool stuff over the years. And but that's a part of the growing process, right? Playing with others, learning, hearing, how you sound in harmony with somebody else, or playing your part along with somebody else, and also making music where music probably didn't exist. So we hear sounds like from nature or something else, and playing along with it. So, just being creative. It's just an act, as an act of being creative. So that kind of branch started with TikTok. We then moved over when Congress and everybody were talking about shutting TikTok down. A lot of TikTok creators started looking at Facebook, Instagram, the meta side, YouTube, and so I'm posting on those as well. But I try to post every day. I've been doing this now. This has been over 3 years. I'm trying to do it. It's just part of daily practice. I try to do a song a day. I try to learn something new. And when I say learn, I don't memorize. Really, I'm really, it's really kind of to
get it out there and then move on to the next thing.
Move on to the next, because it's creating content, right? And so I don't spend a lot of time practicing, so it's a shot in time, so sometimes
here we are, we're going to do it. So how do you go about how do you go about selecting what it is you want to, produce or create? You just
Yeah,
have an
sometimes my
idea.
Yeah,
And
sometimes that's where I started doing these every day. A couple of years, about a year and a half ago, I started doing a birthday post for content. So
yeah,
I used to find it very interesting about whose birthday it is in terms of musicians. So
yeah, I like
I
that. Yeah,
and
yeah.
sometimes I find inspiration like whose birthday it is. Today's birthday is Delbert McClinton's birthday, for example. So he's 85 today, and I'm a big. So I've played a lot of Delbert songs over years. So I re-released Delbert stuff today, but I may try something of his that I haven't done. So sometimes I find inspiration like that. Sometimes I'm just driving home and I hear a song. I'm like, man, I want to cover that. Last night I was watching The Voice, and one of the guys did a song by The Fray, and I was like, man, I want to try that. So
Yeah,
started playing
yeah.
around. So you never know where inspiration. I've sung a whole lot of songs over the years on these socials, and I've sometimes I'll redo them, and so some of these I've actually been able to release on the Spotify. So I've taken a lot of what I've done on the socials because I say we collectively thought TikTok was going away. So in one way, I wanted to save some of the better things I've done, and
Right.
I call it's kind of a nod to Kelly Clarkson. I mentioned The Voice, but I'm also an American Idol fan. But she was
Yeah.
the
Same
great
here.
Kelly.
Yeah. We
You
watched
know,
The Voice and American Idol. Yeah.
she's so awesome, but she
She
does this
is.
thing called karaoke every day, and so I also do. I've released 3 albums. I call them albums. Called Nicky2Shoes, and it's Nicky singing cover songs. It's really me and piano.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's with a
Yeah.
track. I've got a couple with tracks, but mainly it's just
Right.
acoustic stuff. And I
Yeah.
just released those just to have them for line, just for me. It's just for
Yeah.
longevity, so they would not disappear off of the TikTok if it went away.
Right. Right.
So,
Does
and
it just fall off of TikTok over time? It's just like, so you got to preserve it and put it on a,
Well, not necessarily. They stay on TikTok,
do they?
but
Okay.
what could happen though is if the
If
content,
they shut it
if
down
something,
or
if
whatever.
something
Okay.
happens,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
so
Yeah. That
that's
makes
where
sense.
I
Yeah.
wanted to
You want
save
to
some of those.
archive that or save it, in some other,
I mean,
platform, which makes
that can
sense.
happen with
Yeah.
any platform though, right? Meta,
Oh, yeah.
whatever you're on. I mean, even YouTube. I mean, but who knows
Yeah.
what can happen in the future? I mean, nothing's set. But
So how many followers do you have now on, you know, those
a little
different
over 30,000 probably
30,000?
across the platforms, right?
Yeah, yeah,
About
yeah,
15 on each, 13 around
yeah,
TikTok, and it
yeah.
kind of comes up and down
Oh,
about
yeah,
15
yeah. I'm
on the
sure it
Meta side.
fluctuates. Yeah, yeah.
I'm still struggling with YouTube. I'm fairly new to YouTube, and we want to start doing more with explainer kind of videos, but I'm trying to figure out exactly, doing cover songs on YouTube as an old guy is just not as, I mean,
Right, 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 right. Yeah.
people would rather watch Sabrina Carpenter, not Nicky2Shoes.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. I hear you. But
And so
there,
would I. And so would I.
yeah, but you hit on something though, and I see this with artists too. As artists, we want to try to create content and put it out there on a regular basis, to get following. Now, just because I have followers doesn't mean I'm generating sales, you know, because I can have 50,000 or 5,000 or whatever followers, but how many of those am I converting into a customer or client? So, but it's a way to get exposure, and that's the main thing for using social media is to get that exposure and drive that traffic to your website or whatever, where they can purchase, some of your artwork. But YouTube is kind of I use it a lot on how to figure out how to do certain things, fix my refrigerator or whatever the case may be. Or I started a little channel, Painting with Victor Rigole. I haven't posted a lot out there lately. I've been busy doing podcasting and other things, and I need to, but it's just so neat because you can just share, like, how do I clean my palette? What brushes do I like to use? What I want to do eventually is do some live streaming with YouTube and Facebook, because I got all the equipment now to where I can set the camera up. You can see me painting, but you can see my palette and, color mixing and all that kind of stuff at the same time. So that's kind of where I want to go with it eventually. But yeah, I encourage you to try to use that YouTube, but maybe in a different way, because you're right. Who's going to watch? I'm a 68-year-old guy who wants to watch me, but do I need to come up with some kind of unique way of talking about it or telling about it or, showing it, because I got to attract various people, as an audience kind of thing. So, but anyway, rambling on about that, but yeah, good luck with that.
Well, thank you. I mean, and I'm still learning, one of the things I've been able to do in the past, you mentioned, I mean, so I'm able to, some of the channels I've monetized, right? So you talk about, I've been able to, so I get minimal, very pennies.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to really get a ton of views. Some of it I have been able to monetize, like it's on the Meta. It's been very difficult, even on the TikTok side. I mean, you can make money from views, and I've had some views. I've had in the one of the most popular videos. Some of the things that I have done just personally have that 250,000 streams or views, right? And then and that's rare though, and it's usually it's the 200 to 300 range, and it's just you're not going to get anything. But it's about consistency, and it's also about you hope for the viralness of something if you're in the monetization aspect.
That's right. Because you never know, that next video may go viral and you had
never know.
1 million views or whatever.
And it's also about the algorithm, right? And it's how friendly the algorithm is to you. So I've watched over the years. Sometimes I know it's just they're playing with the algorithm. It's whatever. It's like the algorithm pushed it out, and I'm getting more views. But it's not anything more than that. What I did, or what hashtag I used, or what trending sound I used. So I've looked at all these things. But this again, it's been a part of the learning process, right? Learning
that's right.
In terms of new media and how to share your content, and this is how people are using these, not, as much as it's computers. Everybody's using their, mobile devices.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, these days, Victor, that's all I use for content creation is this mobile device. Right? It's what I use for recording. I use it for editing. I use it for publishing everything. I don't use really laptops and definitely big servers. Now there are big servers involved because they're out in the cloud, and that's where everything's happening, right?
That's right.
All I need is really what I think it helps. I learned early on back in doing web programming is that you really needed to look at multiple monitors back in the day. You didn't have the opportunity to see what things looked at different resolutions, and I'm thinking about or different browsers or different.
That's right.
OSs, right? It depends on if you're on what anyway. So that was that kind of back end, or that history of mine helps me to, because I really want to see how people view things, So being able to actually do it on these mobile devices, that's been a part of the learning process.
Yeah, I've had to learn all that too. I mean, it's amazing. Even just, you're talking about algorithms and stuff like that. And I've looked at all kinds of YouTube things and certain settings to set up, when to schedule it, don't post it immediately. Maybe do it after midnight the next night because it wants to go through and see what the content is and maybe help you to get more views and that kind of thing. And it's like, there's a lot to learn. And so, from an artist standpoint too, from what you do, what I do, there's a lot of common things, very similar, and how you can leverage technology and leverage, social media to get exposure to whatever medium it might be, whether it's music or art, creating physical art and that kind of thing. So it's been quite interesting. But I like your content, especially. What is the app that you've used to put yourself out there walking on the street, and listening to music and talking about the ladies who's watched Stop Cold Dead,
Yeah. Okay. So that is okay. So you're referencing a video I've been working on the past couple of days. So I'm using Sora, Sora.
Okay.
Sora is a video generating model through OpenAI, who does ChatGPT, and they've released this now to the general public, but it's on kind of you had to have an access code to be able to get in. I think they're still trying to keep it held back a little bit, and so I started seeing, it was really Sora just came out like a month ago. So I started seeing this content created, video content of AI generated content of some well-known figures, mainly Mr. Rogers and Tupac Shakur. And so I said, how are they doing that? So I looked into Sora because I wanted to create some stuff for the Grapevine, but then when I found Sora, what you can do is with AI, and I've done this with a couple other AI things, is you could create an AI generated twin, your avatar. And so what I've done is I've created, and it's very simple. It takes image, and it also takes your voice. And so people, I mean, this is where I live. I don't recommend this for everybody because some people are scared to death. My wife, Tina, your sister-in-law, she's we would not do this probably. About creating yourself as an AI. Because it is out on the clouds and people could see. So seriously, I mean, it's gotten so good. Speaking of Tina, we have a code. Because it could be my AI generated twin that's calling on FaceTime saying, "Hey, I'm stuck in jail in Mexico. I need $12,000. Send it to me right now." Right. So we have a code because that's the whole deep fake stuff's been out there.
It's a safe word, whatever. Yeah.
Well, this is just becoming now in the hands of everybody, right? So now that I have it in my hands, I started creating. My first was I played around with a couple music videos. One because it was Lyle Lovett's birthday the other day. I was playing around with some Lyle Lovett songs because he's a storyteller and has these visuals. So I was once song about having being on a boat on a horse, and you don't really want to do that in reality. So I was able to generate Neil on a horse on a boat, and I did the whole video. But then I started playing around because it was the time change was Sunday, with fallback. And I covered a song by Chicago.
Perfect timing. Yeah.
Does anybody really know what time it is? It's an old song by Chicago from their first album. But I re-recorded it with me playing piano and singing it. And so what you hear is me singing and playing. But I also used a track from a company that uses human studio musicians. So none of it's AI generated as far as the music, but the entire video is everything is AI generated. Me walking down the street, me talking to people, all the imagery, everything, the clocks, everything.
Even I think it was a trumpet player that came up.
There comes up. I'm now playing piano. So I've got version 5 out there now. I've got 5 different versions. I mean, I'm enhancing it every time as I learn. And also you're limited on Sora with only so much you can do per day. It won't let you just keep creating. You can pay to add. Create. At my level that I'm using for access only allows for so many creations. But this is like 8 clips, and that I'm able to stitch together. And then I use an editing app called CapCut to put them all together. CapCut's tied into TikTok as well. It's owned by that same company, ByteDance. So a lot of people don't like it, but it's a great application, and I use it for a lot of my editing. I teach it as well. So I use that, and I use Sora. But it's really cool. I mean, it's scary cool. I mean, it looks like, and it does, you can create, wrinkleless and no glasses and stuff, but it creates a pretty realistic looking Nicky, and I tried to keep it as realistic as possible, but it's still, I'm learning. And this was just yesterday and the day before, Victor.
I need to use it so I can show a slimmed down version of myself, walking. So
well, I did it, and it's out on my Facebook page because I did it. I'm working. I teach as well for the university system. We have the e-campus, but we're redesigning a class that I teach in financial technologies, and I put out one of my videos that I redid, but it was with my complete AI avatar, and I didn't say any of it. I didn't, my take the video, but it looked like me and it sounded like me, and it actually throws in those and my pauses.
I think I saw that. I think I watched that, and I thought, man, that's so cool that you're able to do that.
It throws in all of my verbal, those things, my stops and my stammers and all of that, because it took into my mind
filler words that we use, the ums and
my ums, and it used, I gave it a video that I made publicly available through YouTube, and use this as so here's what right now, for people who are scared, that I can't make a model of you, Victor. I can't go out and use your voice. That's still not control. And they are cracking down, like on the Mr. Rogers and stuff too. And it's still fairly new, right? And so like some things I'll get, even when I'm creating things for me, it'll say content violation. They're trying to hone down. But the genie's out of the bottle, and so I have to teach this. And I've got students using this, and I've got students who are using AI to write, and so I have to be able. And I use AI to write. I use AI to create music some too, and I've just done research with that, and I need to stay abreast of it to be able to understand how my students are using it, how best to ethically use it. And it's going to be used, and it's not going back in the bottle. Generally, that's what happens when something's, with technology, we're not going back.
That's right. That's right. It's here, and we have to adapt to it and get used to it and try to use it. But wow, this has been so interesting. Now you've written some songs and composed some music and everything, and
Couple out on Spotify, some original
yeah,
stuff as well, along with some
right,
covers.
yeah,
So when you do covers on Spotify, you don't get as much with royalties. So,
right,
but
right.
I've got a couple of original. I write a little bit. I've tried. So some of the stuff that I did with I mentioned research with AI, and I just came back from a conference like a month ago down in Florida, where me and a couple of colleagues presented on our findings about perceptions of AI generated content and the AI generated in music perceptions.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
I created and co-wrote with AI music, instrumental and vocal music. So that was part of the research was how people perceived and could they identify what was either human created, AI created, or co-created with humans and AI. So I've
Right.
co-created with AI stuff, and I've created just content by myself. And I've also had AI just generate stuff, and if it's scary good, it really is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, these days, and I think same with visual artists or whatever your modality of art, it's going to take more than just the content itself. People, it's going to be so easy for good music to be created by a machine, right?
Right.
So
Right.
why would they listen to this old guy? Then that becomes that personal connection that people have to have with you, with an
Right.
artist. And I think that's why people buy people's artwork, right? Because they make a
Yeah.
personal connection.
They
You
do.
know,
Yeah.
otherwise, like a lot of stuff that I create, it's I call it disposable, right? It's just that
Right.
it's
Right.
just for the day. I'm
Yeah.
feeling I call it, and I also call it feeding the algorithm, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just feeding the algorithm today, right? But some days, your content's a little bit better, and that is the kind of stuff that you're going to hopefully make a connection with people, and you would then
Right.
make that kind of available as part of a larger collection or whatever. Whenever you do any kind of performance, to promote more, but yeah.
Yeah. I know some artists use AI to help with generating or creating some ideas for paintings and things of that nature. And and,
Yeah.
and I've done that. It's like, yeah, I want to create something for Christmas, and I'll tell it what I want, and it comes back with something, and I says, yeah, I like this or I don't like that, and I'll use that just to kind of create. But I noticed using chat, I think it was, I don't know if it was Gemini or one of those, but anyway, um, it put down, it looked like a signature in the painting that it created. Because I'll say, hey, create an oil painting in an impressionistic style of a da 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 da. And it goes out and it does all this. And then I'll say, well, give me some more options, and it'll do some different, stuff. But it looked like it had a signature of somebody down in the lower right hand corner. So I asked it, I said, is this AI generated? Because I'm seeing this artist signature. This is AI generated, but because I'm creating a painting, we feel like we have to put some type of little signature on there.
Wow. Wow.
And I said, okay, but you can't make it out because it's not really, it looks like letters and scribble, you know, like they just scribbled an artist's signature on there or something, And I thought, oh, okay, because you never know with AI, and that's where you have to be careful. Are you going out and getting pieces from some other artwork and putting it together, or was this totally just generated from, what you said you wanted, and then they boom, put it up on the screen for you to see it? So that's why I was kind of questioning, hey, is this really AI generated? Because I'm seeing some
No,
artist signature on
it
here.
is it
What's up
is
with
going
that?
out and use
So
it's
yeah,
using other artwork though, Victor. You know that it's using other
yeah,
artists' work.
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
the problem. And there are a lot of lawsuits out there against a lot of companies. Suno is one of these that generate music, and there are a lot of that artists are saying you're using my music, and it's coming
right,
out.
right,
But anyway, that's as old as it's time. This is tells. I
yeah,
mean, even
yeah,
humans, we do that, right?
right,
George Harrison historically is lost a lawsuit that they said he plagiarized the
oh yeah,
Shirelles for the song. He's so fine with a couple. My Sweet Lord sounded too
right,
much like it, and he lost millions. But
right,
you know that's how we learn, right? With through
yeah,
other work and through
yeah,
others and copying. You know, there's nothing new under the sun. But you know, that's what the laws are and the legal experts are going to work out. But they are using to create their models, to create that content. It is
they've got to use something somewhere to say, hey, if it's an impressionistic style, okay, what is that? And they've got that in their database. And then, okay, if this is what I'm looking for, whether it's a ocean scene or a landscape or something like that, so they're trying to pull in some of that stuff. So who knows? You may have a composition that pulled from 5 or 6 different pieces of art. You never know, you know. So, but anyway, it's interesting. Yeah, you just have to be careful, and I think in using it, because you know, if you want to get an idea of, oh, I like those colors, but I'm going to change the composition a little bit, and I'm going to add a few things to it, and I'm going to do things a little different. I think it just kind of helps you to get some ideas, you know, together.
Exactly.
With, you know, so
how we use it, but it's here, right? You know,
I
think it's going to be. I mean, it's just like, you know, I mean, we've seen it in science fiction, you know, where Captain Kirk says, hey, "Computer, tell me this," right? You know, and it's just, we have that capability,
right?
You know,
Anyway, and isn't that amazing? We're living in the Star Trek Jetson world now.
I'm still waiting for my flying car, though. I'm still
yeah. So and you know, we almost have the Rosie robot made, because they're coming out with robots and things now. So that's
we'll definitely have that before the flying car, but I still would like
Oh yeah. They're getting close with these big drones that they've built, you know, where people get in them and they fly those things around. So
that may be the where it comes
from. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, this has been exciting, Neil. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Victor, for the opportunity.
I always ask. I've been trying to ask some questions to the folks that are on the show, and I'm going to ask you. These are just kind of random questions. So, what's your favorite holiday and why?
Oh, what's my? Used to be Thanksgiving because I used to love to eat, and I don't love to eat as much anymore.
You're a good cook.
Yeah, I don't like to cook as much anymore either. So I don't know. Maybe New Year's now is my favorite.
New Year's?
I like the New Year's Day. I mean, it just is one of those where you get to, you know, reset, and it's almost like a Groundhog kind of day.
Do over. Starting a new year. Yeah.
So that's, I think, these days, but historically, I like the just the idea of eating was just but I'm not, you know, trying to stay away from all that, so I can lose some weight too for that.
I know.
I'm a big New Year's fan right now.
Good. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Yeah, that's a great question. To fly, I guess. Fly. Definitely, I would want to fly. Cool. I used to dream I was flying all the time. You know, I haven't had one of those flying dreams in a while. But I always wondered what that meant. You know, sometimes it's kind of like floating or something. But I think the ability to fly, Superman kind of flying. You know, kind of cool.
Yeah, it'd be cool. What's your favorite color?
Man, these days, I don't know. I'm a big fan of. I've always been blue, and then some. I guess blue.
Blue. All right. If you could, can you describe what your ultimate fantasy studio would be as a musician? Describe that for me. What would you have in there? What would it look like?
Ooh. Lots of keyboards, you know.
Lots of keyboards.
Hammond D3,
One
of those Wurlitzer pianos, one at Fender Rhodes. I'd have all kind of vintage keyboards. Vintage Moog. I mean, that's kind of the stuff I would have. For me. But you know,
all kinds of recording equipment, probably,
and the
computers,
recording equipment. I'm still learning.
I mean, it's all computerized now.
It's all computer now. You know, it's just, I just need my phone. You know, and I'm still learning. You know, some of the apps for that, but a lot of vintage keyboards is what I would have for sure.
Well, awesome. Well, Neil, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks
everybody for joining us for this episode. It's been wonderful. Please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, coworkers, and others. But take care, everybody, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care, Neil. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Victor. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Artist Stories of Middle Georgia. We really appreciate our audience and would love to hear about other artist stories you'd like for us to share. Please email us or leave a comment. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, and like and subscribe. Keep painting, everyone!